me show you why. This is my root cellar, and yeah, it's just a hole I dug in the ground. It's about, I don't know, 2.5 to 3 feet deep, and I don't know if you can tell, but it's a pond in there. Let me bring the camera. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com. I'm about to, this is a, believe it or not, a very low budget poor man's root cellar. This is a hole I dug in the ground where I put fermented vegetables, pickles basically. When you ferment pickles, once they're sort of done, their fermentation process, and you got them the way you want them, you want to put them somewhere reasonably cool to not necessarily stop the fermentation process, but to slow it down dramatically. So that's what I've done here. And I'm going to take these out and put them in my garage, but I'm not going to talk about that in this video. I'm going to use this root cellar as an example of why I do not have, nor will I probably ever be in a position to have a Walipini garden. So what is a Walipini garden? For those that don't know, it's the simplest way of explaining what it is that it's a subterranean cold frame. So you excavate, you dig into the ground. Often you can build it into the side of a hill. It can also just be subterranean below the ground. And it's got a big piece of glass or plastic, see-through plastic. It's basically got a transparent side that faces south ideally. And so it picks up a lot of sunlight. And because it's, all the walls of the garden are soil, it has an incredible, what's that called, thermal mass. So the wall, it's very well insulated because it's insulated by earth, but also that those earthen walls pick up a lot of heat and hold a lot of heat during the day. So in that setup, you can, achieve, if you've got reasonably good sunlight during the winter, you can achieve some pretty amazing things because you've created this bizarre microclimate, right, that is just not obeying the same rules as everywhere else in the colder months. So it's a great way to grow out of season, to extend your season, that sort of thing. Unfortunately for me, because of where I live, it's just not feasible. Let me show you why. This is my root cellar, and yeah, it's just a hole I dug in the ground. It's about, I don't know, 2.5 to 3 feet deep. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's a pond in there. Let me bring the camera in a little closer. All right, so it's just a hole I dug in the ground. I put that, it's just some leftover roofing material. I had a steel roof put on my roof because it kept blowing off. And I was tired of going up there to replace the shingles. So I just put that metal around to sort of maintain the integrity of the sides. And yeah, I got about 6 inches of water in there. And just about every time I've checked this, especially after a couple of days of rain, it's been like that. So this is not rain, this is not rain collecting in here like a tub, like if you left a wheelbarrow opened. This is water just coming in from the water table, right? This is just water. It's not perfectly sealed off from the ground. This year I put I had a bag of old concrete ready mix, so I put that down on the ground, but it's not, by no means is it airtight. Right, this is just water seeping in. That is the water table. If you make a hole anywhere here, you're going to get, and it goes down that deep. Once you get to, I'd say that line is about 2 feet. Once you get down about 2 feet, it's going to be water. That's just the water table. So that's why I don't have a Walipini garden. Sometimes people will see, I've done some videos on the past showing how poorly I find cold frames to perform here. And I do use, I've got lots of videos on how I use hoop houses to extend the season, especially to get things started in the spring. And I think there's some advantages to that. But there's just, for me, in terms of, so then they'll say, well, geez, maybe you could use Walipini. And I think there's places where that works, especially higher elevation places that aren't natural pools. I have a goldfish pond over there, and all I did to make the goldfish pond was dig a hole. That's all I did. I just dug a hole, and then the next year I dug it a bit deeper, and the next year I made it a bit wider, and the next year I made it a bit wider. And after 3 years of frigging around like that, it's basically a self-sustaining, self-maintaining goldfish pond. I put a couple of those cheap goldfish that they feed the piranhas in there, and another kind of minnow called, I think a rosy red minnow. And yeah, it's just, there might be like 1 or 2 times in the entire summer I turn the garden hose on and add some water to it because it's getting dangerously low, and the water, I'm more worried about the water getting too warm than it running out. So I do that to sort of cool things down and just, you know, help the fish out. But that might be, you know, once or twice an entire summer I need to do that. And the amount of water I use might be what you'd use to take a bath, a nice bath, right? So yeah, it's just, so I've made this comment in some of my videos. It just wouldn't work here. You know, it would fill up with water. I think a lot of people don't believe me because where they live, that sort of thing doesn't happen. It happens here, right? So, I mean, I'm taking these out today. I'm going to be putting them in my garage where I keep them in the winter because it's going to get too cold here. You know, it'd be interesting to check the temperature of that water. Anyway, I think this might be my last year using this approach because it's just it's a little bit wet in there if you haven't noticed. So yeah, that's why I don't have a Walipini garden. If I was to have a Walipini garden, I'd have to have some sort of, you know, pump because it'd be below ground, right? I'd have to have like a sump pump or something like that to get the water out. It just wouldn't make any sense, right? So sometimes you just got to accept your limitations. That's just something I can't do. It's a lot of work to make them anyway. It's worth it if you're somewhere where that design can work for you. It just doesn't make any sense for me. So anyway, there's an answer to that question. Why don't I have a Walipini garden? That's why. It would be a pond. See you next time.